what was that, the Instagram post that you had seen that said something like, oh yeah, when you were born, you're handed an identity and a religion and a race, and you spend all your life defending it. And so we came across this,
No, you gotta say it. You gotta say
I gotta
it.
say it right? All right,
It's
all
as
right, you say it right.
yeah. As soon as you are born, you are given a name, a religion, a nationality, and a race. You spend the rest of your life defending a fictional identity.
Yeah. And this was
Yeah.
kind of an interesting thing that we stumbled upon this week, and we talked about it earlier in the week. And what's funny about that is, like you said, it's such a unappreciative statement, even at its best, because it's almost disregarding, almost completely rubbishing everything that was handed down to you.
Yeah.
And that's once you start to see all of those things like your religion and all that stuff as
Your family traditions and
it's
nationality and
stuff
all
that
this
was
stuff.
passed down to you, obviously from a place of love, wasn't from a place of hate or whatever. And so, statements like that, it kind of removes from, it takes you away from feeling appreciative enough. We're not saying, you have to agree with everything that was handed down to you, but at the very least, that level of appreciation of all of those past experiences of your parents all bottled together into this nugget for you, that is your religion or your family traditions and things like that. And we routinely see comments like this online. I don't know. You were telling me about the group you follow that posted that.
Oh yeah. So on Instagram, I follow a bunch of different like spirituality pages. Like I think the one that is like, I think there's like this one from something called Truth Guidance, and there's like Children of Light and all these things. And the thing about it is like I kind of view that system of thought as kind of being a religious system. And like any system, there are things in it that are good, things in it that are I disagree with, and then things that are just outright like
ridiculous
at the level of magical nonsense. And so it's a matter of every once in a while I come across really decent stuff on these things. Like one of them was something that said, like, I want to wake up every day being proud of the reality I've created for myself, or be proud of the life that I've created for myself. And it's like, yeah, that's solid advice. They talk a lot about, your relationships and getting rid of toxic people and all these things. So I would say that 85% of the stuff that I get from these pages are actually just solid, decent things to live by. 5% of it is like nonsense. Like if you like this, then the universe will give you $1,000, which is just complete garbage. and then the other 10% of it is like stuff that I just disagree with. And I think that this one about defending a fictional identity, I just disagree with, because it seems like it comes from a place of hate. It doesn't come from a place, as you were saying, from appreciation from what was given to you in the past. And it automatically assumes that these things that are given to you,
Or
like
just
your religion,
completely
your
bad.
culture, your nationality, that all this stuff is just given like somehow arbitrarily, and that it's fake. Whereas, when your parents are teaching you stuff and they're giving you like the foundations of how they think, they're passing their spirit onto you essentially. And a lot of times, most parents, they do this out of love. And so if you are unable of identifying the things that are passed on to you that come from love, and you think that you can just dismantle it all and start from scratch and call it all fake, then that's completely unappreciative of the past. And it just comes off as, it comes off like we were saying before. There's a reading of this that could be charitable, in which it's just trying to say something like, you don't have to hold on to everything that's given to you, and like, yeah. And that's completely right. Like your parents give you a stuff, your nationality and all these things. They give you a culture, they give you a way of thinking, they give you a worldview. You don't have to preserve all of it, but at the very least you should give it enough benefit of the doubt to identify what's good about it, what should be preserved, and what should be changed and modified and improved. And I just feel like that this statement doesn't give room for that. It just gives room for smashing it all
with a giant hammer.
Yeah, no nuance.
No nuance at all. And so even parts of your religion or your culture that you don't agree with as you've grown older, that's a decision that you have to make on your own. But at the same time, you should still be able to look back and go, oh, you know what, I see the point. This makes sense. I see, this part of the culture. I appreciate it. It's not serving me right now. Like, I'm a perfect example because my childhood was in Nigeria, and it's very easy for me to say, you know, a lot of the cultural things that were passed down to me, you know, how to do this and do it this way, things like that, are things that I can just throw away and say, oh, you know, it doesn't serve me anymore and all that stuff. But especially because, you know, living here in America is a completely different, you're playing a completely different game. So a lot of those cultural, you know, norms and rules and ideas and, you know, things like that probably won't serve you here. But
Yeah.
I can definitely look back and, you know, just still feel a level of appreciation for some of these things that were passed down and still pick and choose different things from it. I was talking to my good friend a few days ago, and in Nigeria, there's this system of saving where a group of people come together and they save money. And how it works is, so it could be 5 friends and we say we're going to save $200 every month. So how it works is on the 30th day of the month, everybody comes together and they put their $200 into a pot and they give it to one person in the group. And then at the end of the next month, everybody puts $200 in the pot and then they give it to one person in the group. So it goes around, you know, and essentially I could look back at that, you know, from where I am right now and be like, oh, you know, that's a lame idea. That's dumb. Why would anybody want to do that? But what I can appreciate from it is, you know, this teaches you a lot about how to save money. It teaches you, you know, so of course, if I want to save my money, I don't need 5 people to come together to help me save it because essentially that's what it is. But at the same time, I can go put it in the bank. I could, you know, invest it, do whatever I want with the money. But that piece of my culture, that was something that was, you know, how my people essentially did their banking or their savings, quote unquote, is something I can still look back on and appreciate and know, you know, the idea behind this was to just create that culture of saving money.
Yeah. And it's always important to be able to go back and look at things and appreciate them, because I remember, like, I think that this little thing, I wouldn't give it the benefit of doubt to say that it's trying to say something more nuanced. I think that what I've seen consistently through these, through a lot of it, is this idea of rebelling against the past.
Yeah.
And you see it consistently. And I remember on one of the ones that they posted on one of these pages, they said something about like the joy of identifying the things that your parent, like the conditioning that your parents gave to you and rebelling against them. And there is something valuable about going through and finding out what your parents gave you and shedding some of that conditioning. And most people, you know, through a teenage years, like when you're a kid, your parents give you your entire reality. They give you everything that you should do. They set your rules. They do all this stuff. Ideally, yeah. And then when you become a teenager, you start to rebel against it. And you start identifying, you know, you try to find your own identity. And it's one of those things where there's something good about going through that rebellion and picking at some of the things they said and creating some freedom, just like in the Buddhahood thing. Like you're like, when you remove structure, you're creating freedom to create something new. And but what's really great about it is once you've lived a while, and then you go back and you look at the stuff that your parents gave you, and you're able to appreciate it more. And it's one of those things where, yeah, rebellion's great, but having some life experience and then going back and be able to love and appreciate and see that the rules that are in your nationality, in your culture, in your family, and seeing that these rules are actually designed to protect you and they're actually loving. That's actually something that that needs to be appreciated just as much as the process of questioning and breaking stuff down.
It's really easy to lose sight of that and just see it as a, you know, this isn't serving me. I need to just rip this apart and, you know, create something new.
Good luck starting from scratch.
Good luck starting from scratch. Exactly.
Yeah. But the thing that I like, that I think is good about this little statement about defending a fictional identity, is that you have to really start asking yourself, what is your identity and what is the self? Because when you think about and what you inherit, both in terms of genetics and culture, in both cases, those things are just waveforms. They are just things that are placed on physical matter that affects the configuration of the universe. Like, and we know that different thought processes are different configurations of your physical system. And so if something is in the configuration of a dog, that's different than the configuration of a human. And so in both cases, whether it's genetic information or cultural information, both of these are just a blueprint for how to structure physical matter, like how to put it in a specific state. And so when you're trying to think of what you are as the self, you have to start thinking, it's like, okay, am I the physical matter that makes up the system, or am I the blueprint that arranges the matter so that it's in one state versus another state? And to kind of conceptualize this even clearer, you can think about the fact that your physical, like the actual physical matter that makes up your system, that's replaced. Like a lot of the matter that made up you at the beginning of your life, it's not the same matter anymore.
So obviously that can't be yourself.
That obviously can't be yourself, because as that's replaced and changed, there's something else that persists as that changes. And so what is the thing that is not made of physical matter that persists as that physical matter is replaced? And we would argue that thing that persists is actually the waveform. And so if waveforms are just these things that determine the state of a system and what configuration it's in, then when a parent passes you down their waveforms, their states of being, you inherited that just as you inherited your genetic material. Which one of these is the self the waveform, or is the self the matter? And so it's not as simple as just saying that the stuff that's being passed down to you is fictional. I don't think that's the correct way of looking at it.
It definitely is not.